Matheus Cunha has made it clear he wants to leave Wolves this summer, and he's ready for the next step in his career. Viktor Gyokeres has an agreement with Sporting to leave, and for a lot of United fans, they'd love us to sign both. For me, every United fan needs to know this about Cunha, Gyokeres, and probably a few other players this summer. Let me explain. So when it comes to this summer, we need a goal scorer. Manchester United desperately need a goal scorer. Unfortunately, same summer that Liverpool are probably going to replace Núñez. Same summer that Arsenal need to sign a striker. Same summer that Chelsea will probably just sign one anyway, even if they've already got one. But Chelsea need one. And United's policy is switching. It started to switch, and when it comes to the striker position, it's where a conversation needs to be had. I'm going to speak in this video about Gyokeres, about Delap, about Cunha, about Sesko, about Osimhen, all the strikers available, because we need to have a conversation, all right? Let me know what you think in the comments, because for a lot of United fans, Gyokeres is probably going to be the player who's top of the list. Not just because of his links with Amrin, but because he's just like an unadulterated fiend for goals. And a physical specimen as well. Now, Cunha is a conversation that, could be had as well, but that price is massively restrictive. And Cunha isn't really a striker, a natural striker. He can play in that role, of course, but Gyokeres is absolutely more of a natural striker. Now, interestingly, Amrin was speaking ahead of Nottingham Forest, and he was speaking about United's pattern there of signing older players and how something has to change. We need to do something different. I like that in red there, but it depends on the different cases, on the position, on the experience of players. And this is where I think United are in a little bit of a tricky position, because Jason Wilcox is obviously switching United's policy to focusing on younger players, to buying players in a more sustainable fashion. And when it comes to a player like Viktor Gyokeres, this is the thing. The same probably applies to Victor Osimhen, I think. Could it work out for both of them? It absolutely could work out. But there is zero room for error. Because if it doesn't work out and you sign Gyokeres on big money, turning 27 in June, you then have a player who's just going to depreciate in value on big wages who other clubs probably won't want to sign. And you find yourselves in the same sort of situations as we have previously. Now, in terms of what United's interest in Gyokeres is, this is what Laurie Whitwell's saying from The Athletic, saying talk of a reunion has been tepid at United because of the cost it would take to get him from Sporting and then the wages on top of that. I think if we win the Europa League, there might be a conversation about Gyokeres, but I think it's exclusively related to that. So it makes you talk about what else could happen. And again, The Athletic has mentioned 3 names here that we should have a conversation about. First up, Delap, saying Delap, United hold that interest. Obviously, the link between Jason Wilcox and his time at Man City and Liam Delap being there, and the fact that, he's got 10 goals and 2 assists so far in the Premier League this season, it's been impressive. Delap's stature has gone up. But if I'm going to look at Gyokeres and have conversations about my worries to do with the age of him and the price and the fact that we can't afford to make mistakes like that, I'll be totally honest. I look at Liam Delap and I see, he is 22, so he's got age on his side, but do I look and see a player who is going to come in, lead the line, and teach Højlund how to be the striker that he needs to be to take the pressure away from him? Sure, he'd take the pressure away from him, but I'm not sure Delap would be that guy. Sure, he comes with some Premier League experience, but there are pros and cons. I don't think there's a perfect striker signing that United could make this summer. In terms of a perfect striker that would tick all the boxes that Jason Wilcox wants in Chris Pavel, in terms of the strategy, and in terms of the experience, and in terms of the goals he would bring. It depends on basically where you hedge your bets. And Sesko is the second name on that list. Sesko fits the profile. United have tracked him since 2018. But with Sesko, the thing that's a little bit confusing about him, he did sign a new contract in the summer. Remember, he was linked with Arsenal, signed a new contract, had a release clause put into that contract, but it's a release clause which is variable according to performances. And this was released by Sky in Germany at the beginning of March, saying that currently the performance data for him means that his value on the release clause is 70 million euros, but that could raise to 80 million euros. But Sesko ticks the box. He's 21. But then if there's one position I think that United are probably going to look to find some experience in, it's probably the striker role. So 70, 80 million on a 21-year-old Benjamin Sesko is a very similar bet to signing Rasmus Højlund. I think he's more developed than Højlund is. Of course, he's led the line far longer at Leipzig than Højlund did at Atalanta. I always say Atalanta. did at Atlanta before we signed him. I understand that. But still, I just don't think that's a risk that United will take. And then we have a conversation about Osimhen. Now, Osimhen, if we go back to this list here, United's tight budget is a major factor in any options, including Viktor Osimhen, whose wages would be an obstacle. It definitely would be. But Laurie mentioning that some kind of swap deal that might make it more financially palatable is including Garnacho in it. And maybe that's the only way that Viktor Osimhen comes into it. But every single striker that you lay in front of you, right? We'll go back and we'll run through the list again. Probably the goal scorer that people are going to be after this summer. Turns 27 in June, but would come with a premium as a consequence. Wants Champions League football. Will United be able to offer that? We'll find out in the Europa League. But at the age that he is, United would be signing a player at the peak of their value. And that is the thing that we have to avoid. And then you go to Viktor Osimhen, and you probably would get him for less than what Gyokeres is on, but wages-wise, it's been a big problem with his sort of demands with Napoli and kind of why that relationship fell apart and his agent was involved and he would command massive wages that would probably break the wage structure that Ineos are trying to put in. And he turns 27 in December, so similar sort of worries that you would have with Viktor Gyokeres. As a United fan, not worried too much, but it's more the fact that there's no room for error. Like, it has to work out. Because if it doesn't work out, you've bought a player who, from a long-term perspective, isn't a sustainable signing, because if it doesn't work out, you can't shift him on. But then you look at Liam Delap, who's 22 and in the Premier League and does have experience in a relegation-threatened Ipswich. But is he the man who will come in with the experience and change our fortunes up front? I'd have reservations about it. I don't think that 70, 80 million euros, on Benjamin Sesko would be the smartest way to invest. Honestly, hand on heart, I don't know who the right striker is for United to effectively take their gamble on this summer. I think if Ruben Amorim had his choice, I think it's quite obvious because of the connection that he would have with Gyokeres. You couldn't begrudge him for doing that, but that might fall into the trap of signing players who have played for managers previously at different clubs. I feel like it'll be slightly different on Gyokeres, because if we don't sign Gyokeres this summer, Arsenal will, or Chelsea will, or Liverpool will, and he'll play in the Premier League for a top-level club. It's a little bit different. But I'm concerned. Honestly, I don't know the right... Let me know who your... Maybe that's the wrong question to ask, because if I ask who your choice would be, then Gyokeres is going to be the answer for a lot of you. Which striker do you think United take the risk on? Is it a striker who, like Gyokeres or Osimhen, who's older and it has to work out, or would they take the different gamble in signing someone who's younger but might not be exactly the experienced striker that we need? That one there, you've got more of a get-out than Gyokeres or Osimhen. Let me know who you think in the comments. It's a really interesting one, but I'm going to follow up on this by actually doing some more research and maybe trying to find some other names to put on this list. You can let me know what you think.